I'll go off and shoot. Kia ora, everybody. Welcome to the Friday Morning Business Show, episode 77 or something like that. As you might know, we've got a new format. So we're bringing in a whole lot of experts, because Jung and Nick don't know everything, and we don't claim to know everything. And we're lucky enough to be joined today by New Zealand Small Business Marketer of the Year in 2017. I've worked with Stu myself. Stu works with a number of my clients and is getting great results in terms of digital marketing and specifically, but also marketing in general, right? I don't think digital marketing is the be all and end all, and I actually don't even recommend that it's a place to start when you're a small business. Do you want to introduce yourself, Stu, and let us know what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, thanks, man. Nice introduction. You got the year wrong, though. I'm way older than you made out. So thank you for saying 2017. It was 2007.
Oh, wow.
Which shows how old I am. And such an old
21.
Higgins.
So you're 11 years old? You're 11 years old, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Introducing myself, I'm Stu. I am a marketing nerd. I work with a bunch of small businesses. That's who I choose to work with, and I love it. But I've worked in all sorts of spaces before. Live and breathe this shit. Work with Jung a lot, and do a variety of coaching, consulting, agency work, and start with strategy. That's what I have a tendency to do. Yeah.
Cool, man. And, so I'm really looking forward to, we're lucky enough that I bought Stu one beer, maybe two, and, I've convinced him to have a regular slot on the show. So he's going to bring you regular, marketing tips, strategies, hacks, and all that kind of stuff. And, help demystify it for you guys. Because in my experience, talking to hundreds of small business owners over the last decade, it's actually around demystifying it for yourselves. You know the strategy, you know the tactics, but it's just about putting it in the right order and knowing what to prioritize, I think, in my experience. So you're going to have a regular slot with Stu. Thank you very much, Stu.
No, thank you. Look, I'm looking forward to it because, you and I, we talk to small business owners all the time, and so many of them are just not doing things because the little bits and pieces of things that they've done in the past didn't work. And so I'm really keen to share a whole lot of little pieces of insight to help at least get people working on some marketing, right?
100%. I love that, because I think that's where, you and I are really aligned in terms of, business owners, guys work hard. It's pretty hard. It's pretty isolated. You're overwhelmed. You're doing everything. And, man, if we can add in a little bit of, strategic advice or marketing grunt, and get you doing your thing better, that business can, crank out the profit that that it can. It can run as smoothly as it can. You can have the lifestyle that that you should, and the world's a better place.
Oh, dude, look, I get it, right? Coming from being a clueless small business owner when I first started a business back in 2004, I get that you get all excited about things, and then you go out and try and do a marketing thing or a sales thing. And that and you get all super enthusiastic about it, and you go and try your best, and then it falls flat, and it's just so disheartening that you there's so many people I met who have done that like 4 or 5 times, and then they go back like new website or new this, new that, and they go back and then they're like, screw this, I'm just going to do word of mouth sales for the rest of my life, right? that didn't work, so I'm just going to word of mouth sales. And the challenge I have with that is the word of mouth stuff is now moving to a digital world, right? So where I started my, first business, you could go to B&I groups and you could get a ton of business. You could basically, your clients would tell other clients and everything would be gravy. It's changing. The landscape's changing for a lot of businesses. So, and another thing that's happening is competition's changing too, right? I've seen so many millennial-led businesses, Gen Y-led businesses who come in with a really strong marketing game. And almost, even if they're like regional or local suppliers, they kind of disrupt their little area and become highly competitive because, they may not be super elegant, but they're executors in the channel that they know. They don't know word of mouth, so they go and smash social, or they go and smash SEO, something like that, or they start doing video. And I'm seeing so much of this, and for me, it's like really cool to watch young guys and girls start businesses and kick into it. But I see and talk to a lot of business owners who've been around, my generation who've been around, scratching their head, going, "Oh shit, what do I do?" Right? It's a fascinating little world out there, and you must see it.
Yeah, totally, dude. Again, it just marketing in general kind of gets thrown in too hard basket, and people will hide behind, oh, look, I'm so busy on the tools, or I'm so busy firefighting, all my team issues, etc., or my product and shipping issues. I just don't have time for it, which is pretty sad. Actually, let's kick into our first topic. Actually, sorry, I'm going to say anyone who's tuned in, there's a few of you already tuned in, so say what's up in the comments if you like. Throw your questions through, even if you're watching this as a replay. Post up your questions, because Stu and I will keep an eye on the comments, and we'll try and come back to you, because again, we just want to help you with your marketing and grow your small business overall. So first topic is, in your expert opinion, what do small businesses do wrong when it comes to marketing?
Yeah, good question. Often it's not what they do which is wrong. It's often that they do things in the wrong order, or they'll do things without an understanding of the thing they're doing. So there's kind of a couple of analogies. Some small businesses will try and do marketing, and it'll be like a bomb, right? They're just they'll lay a whole lot of marketing effort. So they'll spend a whole lot of money on like some agency work or a new website, and it'll all be this, everything has to be perfect. And then they go off and do this big launch, which might be like 3 social posts or an email bomb out to their clients, and then they get crickets. So they do all of this work around taking what they already have as a brand or the products, and they throw it all onto a website, or they throw it all onto a social page, or they throw it all into one thing, and ultra perfectionist all through the way, right? And then they launch it and it fails, and then they blame marketing, right? So that's one thing that they do wrong, which I call is the big bang style. The other one is the Gatling gun, right? Where they'll just fire off 20 social posts, and then they'll fire off 2 emails, or they'll start doing some SEO, or they just do all of these little things at once. It's just like all around, with actual no targeting, right? So their marketing is trying to speak to everyone in the marketplace. And when you ask them who's your target customer, like anyone who might want to buy tires, anyone who might want to have anyone who has a business. That's one I hear all the time. It's like, who's your target audience? So anyone who has a business. I'm like, but who do we want to put in the crosshairs? Drop your Gatling gun and let's get a sniper rifle out, right? And that's the thing that I find is most common, is people feel that there's a billion people on Facebook, or that there's a gazillion people searching on Google. Therefore, someone must listen to my stuff if I only just put it out there. So pulling that all together, the number one thing people do is untargeted tactics. Yeah, posting, emails, whatever, but not targeted. And they're just throwing things out into the wind and hoping that someone will come back and they'll turn into a lead and then a client. And invariably, it doesn't work.
Yeah, look, I'll verify that too. Right. If they get over the hey, it's too hard basket whole mindset and block around it, and they go out there and for me, it's uncoordinated. It's just they have, there's no plan, right? There's no coordination to it.
Look, I used to go a lot to networking functions, right? And it's people, often business owners, will behave in digital and their marketing the same way that the way they would never think of behaving in a networking function. You imagine walking into a networking function and literally standing with your business cards and then throwing them like cards at people in the room and hoping someone will pick up the card and become a client, right? And there'll be cards hitting people in the head, and they'll be landing in drinks and in plates. And or the other one is standing in the room going, hey, I've got a special offer this week. You don't know who I am. You don't know what I can sell, but I've got 50% off. You should come and follow me to my shop and buy something. How's that sound? And everyone's looking and going, who the hell are you again?
Hey,
And that's how we behave in our digital marketing, right?
Most important thing I got from that is can you tell me what a business card is? What's this thing that you talk about? What's a business card?
Yeah, it's a thing that boomers use.
Is it like a crypto thing, like a blockchain thing, and I can tip it?
I'm sure there are printers in here who are turning over in their business graves right now.
Yeah, it's a big part of the business show. I get when you come on the show. Any of you future guests, when you come on the show, you get banter, you get shade thrown at you. Yeah, right. I love the analogy though, right? In terms of why do we think on social we can act a certain way when at the end of the day it was still trying to build rapport, build trust, build authority, build a relationship, and then nurture a relationship with a human. At the end of the day, on the other end of that Facebook post or that Instagram post or that email. And all of the rules of starting and building a relationship just go out the door because we're on social. Love that one. Next topic is, so what do you think we need to get right as small business owners when it comes to our marketing? What's the most important part to get right, or parts?
I think there's two parts because the rest flows on. Number one, get a pen and paper out and write down some form of plan, right? I call it strategy, but having a plan rather than just going, I'm just going to dive into social today and typing stuff and play around with Canva and copycats and stuff. Like literally write down, this is my plan. And if you don't know what to write down, then your first plan is find out how to write a plan. Right? If you don't know how to write a marketing plan, then that is your first and biggest problem. The second part to this is when writing a plan, in my opinion, after really going to university and finding that marketing plans were really, really generic and not suited to small business. Suited to large marketing teams of experts who can take an existing brand and kind of amplify it. But to a small business who doesn't have a brand that people trust yet, it starts in the wrong place. And so where I always start small business owners is understanding who that target customer is. And that starts off by actually culling off who it isn't, right? Pick a person, pick your favorite customer, who's one of your existing customers, who loves you and loves your service and loves what you bring to the world with your product or with your service or how you do things, or right, loves what's special about you, and take that person and start really digging into why did they choose you? Who is this person? What is their age? Where do they live? How did they come across you? When you can analyze that one person, then now you've got a couple of billion people on Facebook, you can then say, how do I find more of that person? And with that understanding, perhaps you'll learn what it was you originally said to that person, or what drew or magnetized them to you. And you can take some of that magic and push that out, right? So that's the, that's the stuff to start writing down, right? Who is my target customer? That's the first part of your plan is, who loves me the most, and how can I replicate them? How can I clone them?
Strongly agree, right? And so just to kind of, make sure that we're succinct here. So what do SMEs do wrong? They go out with a kind of uncoordinated, like big bang, hiss and a roar, and then they run out of energy, right? So it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's a consistency thing, not a explosive kind of thing. Or they take a Gatling gun and they just kind of spray a whole lot of stuff everywhere that doesn't land anywhere, throwing shit at a wall, kind of thing. And so the one thing that
and the bullets are expensive, right?
Strongly agree, right? In terms of time, money, and focus as well, right? And the one thing that they do need to do is just sit back and make a bit of a plan, right? And then actually we've moved into our next topic here, which is, where do I start with a marketing plan?
Yeah, cool.
Right, and that's start with the customer, start with 100%. Empathy, start with the market.
And I think a really great way to start with the customer is actually start having conversations with them on a different level, right? So rather than, how are you going? How are we looking after you? Which is your typical small business owner thing. What made you choose us? Right? And when you chose us, what was your situation? What was going on? Right? We're an accounting firm, and you chose to come to us, but I never asked you what was going on before that. Can you tell me that, please? I really want to understand, why people decided to work with us. When you find out what that context is, then you're finding out not only who is your target customer, but also that they've just recently been let down by someone, or they've just recently, you find out their context. They've just recently started a new business, or they've just recently bought a house, whatever it is. So now you can bring more assets together of knowledge. So that's the first part is, who is this target customer? Secondly, what is his context or her context? What is it? What was their situation? And those are two really powerful things, because now instead of just looking for, 45-year-old business owners in Hamilton, you're now looking at 45-year-old business owners in Hamilton who are male, who have just bought a house, right?
Right.
And then once you've got that sort of context, you're like, okay, cool. Now, if I'm doing a Facebook ad, I'm looking at new homeowners, right? And so you can target people like that if you're doing Facebook ads, or you can find people who work with those customers and start working with them. And then you can also, the more you know about your customer, the more you understand what their world looks like. So your plan becomes, who are they? What is their context? Next question is, what is the likely channel for me to get hold of them on? How are they going to discover me? Are these the sort of person that is searching for my type of service on Google, right? But I already know, because I know the customer more than my competitors do, that when people are Google searching for whatever the blah is, I'm saying, we specialize in first home buyers, as an example. So now your creative, or whatever you're saying, your advertising and marketing is talking to that specific audience and their context. And they go, well, this is exactly me. I need to click on this. I need to do this thing, right? And then that leads into a really crucial part of things, which is the key message, which is, understanding what it is you truly do, what it is you truly change in the world of your customer, right? And you and I have worked with this on a number of projects and clients and brands, and it is one of the hardest things for a business owner to do alone, right? Talking about yourself in the eyes of your customer and the full empathy of your customer is a really, really difficult thing, because we bring our own past and experience into what we do. If I'm a real estate agent, I bring years of working with vendors and working with buyers, and you bring a lot of bias to your own ability to write about yourself, and you forget that if your key customer is the vendor, if you're a real estate agent, you can often take a whole lot of industry talk and you try and put that into this. We're a solution-oriented, bespoke, boutique real estate firm, which means absolutely nothing to your customer. Right?
Yeah.
Right. But that's the type of language that we try and put into our what I call the key message. And if you flip it around, a better way of perhaps saying things is, I help I help people who want to sell their house get the highest possible price in the shortest possible time. And nice. And there's no bullshit to how I operate, right?
Nice.
So, and then, you take a message like that, which is utterly what the vendor wants, right? I want it sold on the highest possible level for the lowest possible time. And I want no mess. Right, and I want no hidden advertising fees. I want complete transparency. Right, and there are a couple of agents out there who are strong enough or bold enough to say things like that. But that's just Stu's bullshit example of how we get it wrong. We overcook our message big time.
Yeah,
right. And I fall into this all the time.
It's hard to be objective, right? Can we run this example actually? So, right. Yesterday, I'm talking to one of my clients. Probably one of on the medium size, I would say, not necessarily a small business. Rolling about 3 mil, anyway, annual turnover. But he wants me to talk to his accountant because we're working on some kind of financial modeling and stuff like that, and succession planning, shareholding, blah 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 blah. And he's like, "Oh, you got to talk to my accountant, right?" And then he says, in addition to our project, we've got 2,000 clients. He's got 2,000 clients, and you need to talk to him because. We're about 3 months into our relationship, this client and I, and he's like, man, you've helped me so much, right? And so you've got to talk to the accountant about helping his clients because he just does the end of year and the profit and loss and GST returns, blah, 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 blah.
Mm.
And he's like, you've really made a difference because there's no one for me to talk to. And I'm like, okay, cool, right, here's a chance to do some feedback. Stu said, I got to talk to my clients around, what makes them kind of engage. And so I asked him, okay, cool, well, what do you think it is that I actually do for you? And he comes back and he says, you help me get through the glass ceiling. You help me have someone to talk to. You help me make a plan to get through because it's all in my head and I can't see the wood through the trees. And look, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but I'm like, what do I do with that? That was just a whole bunch of
gold. Gold
yeah.
is what that was, right? Because here's the thing. So we think about ourselves in our own worlds as business owners all day, right? We can't help it. We wake up in the morning. It's like, what am I going to do today? What am I going to smash today? We're all inspirational. We eat our Wheat Bix and, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to make those sales or do whatever, right? We're in our own world. And so is our customer. And so what you did is you cracked into your customer's world and you got his words, his inner voice about what you do, right? And that inner voice is what they need, what strangers need to hear. So marketing is strangers hearing something or reading something or seeing something which resonates with their inner world, right? So you've cracked the code, right? Because you've got like three or four different examples of your customer's inner voice in which to test in marketing to see if it resonates with strangers. So I would take those pieces in exactly those words, don't change them, and go, maybe a Facebook ad, right? Going to strangers targeted, which were male strangers because it was a male who said it. So we want males and females have different inner voices and different language use. So you take that language use, maybe slightly reverse it, and ask a question on an ad which says, are you struggling to break the glass ceiling? Right? Are you struggling to see the wood for the trees in your business? Do you need someone to talk to who you can trust? Right? Or have you, and this is flippant, so forgive me, accountants, is your accountant not cutting the mustard as an advisor? Right? But this is the inner voice this isn't the whole brand conversation, right? But this is a way to capture an audience's attention, because if I see something in marketing, I'm seeing thousands of messages a day and all of the different channels and signs that I drive past and radio ads and whatever else I'm listening to, business cards. And if I see something, we're pattern matches, right? That's part of our species. One of the things that makes our species so good at growth and multiplying, right, was we're very, very good at pattern matching. And so our brains are always looking for things that match. So if someone matches what your inner voice is saying right now, which is your context, because people won't always be thinking that, they'll be thinking that only when it's the right time for you to approach them. But when that magic does happen, that's when you B2B people who are watching this, so when you end up in a sales meeting and people go, geez, Dave, your timing was amazing for that ad to come through or that email that you sent me. It was just perfect, right? And you're, well, why? Well, because I was just thinking about buying, I've just bought my first home, and you were talking about this and blah, 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 blah. And you were speaking my language. And that is the essence of marketing.
Man, I love that. Just a quick recap here. I love that. You kind of gave the tactics, strategic tactic, of kind of talking to your ideal clients, that you already currently have. Right. So that's, from a business strategy perspective, I guess, that's leveraging, the validation that you already have in the market. Right. So I love that. And then we went into the tactic of what do you do with it? And that was really, really cool, right? So, and for anyone watching, and this is why I love Stu. I recommend Stu. I use Stu for all of my marketing, because this is where the genius kicks in, right? And this is where the implementation, and I watch marketing strategy, I learn marketing strategy, I teach marketing strategy, but the execution piece is what you do with that. And can you see how Stu was able to kind of land it in the context of the audience or the receiver or the reader or the listener of it, and then make it really, really meaningful? That's where I think the genius is, dude. Where you kind of, use marketing strategy, use marketing tactics, and then you shape it in a way that is really, really meaningful and effective, therefore, for both parties, because it stops them scrolling, right? It kind of, they see a pattern that they can identify with, and we get the attention or the lead generation, right?
Well, thank you, but the inner Kiwi tall poppy person in me is like chopping down that genius word, and let's just get down to someone who's done his 10,000 hours, right? I like doing my job, so I appreciate that as feedback. But I just love doing my job, and I've done it lots and lots of times. So, where I've experimented with, another thing I will say is, there is never. And you and I have worked together, right? There is never one key message that's like, it's like test.
Yeah,
So,
that was the other tactic that I loved.
I might come up with things that make sense to the business owner, being you, if we're talking, but really what needs to happen is that execution piece, right? Without that, we've thought about a key target customer, we've thought about maybe their context. We've now spoken to our customers and got some of their feedback, and we've turned that into words, which could also be matched with images to evoke some sort of response. Then you want to go test and then test and then test, and then one of them you'll get response. And that's where the resilience kicks in, right? That marathon running thing, where you just got to keep working until you get that response, that response, and it's like, holy shit, now we're going to take that and amplify the hell out of it and start adding budget to it, or adding time, or adding effort to it. And that's when marketing stops being hard yards and becomes real fun, right? Because the immediacy of the result starts being seen, rather than this whole, I'm talking. I remember you talking, it's like, we're posting and nothing's happening, right? No one's watching this. I'm like, there's eyeballs watching it, right? But they're not ready yet. That's the, that's the thing that I find is probably, it's not one of your questions, but it's one of the hardest parts of marketing, is that kind of resilience and patience when you don't get sales come back. But you're an example of this, Mr. 1ZB. When you really game up on your marketing, you get this other feedback coming in, right? There's other people wanting to work with your accountancy firm, starting to, your clients start referring you to other people in their network because you're perhaps lifting your profile, and then magic starts happening, right?
Love that magnetism, that gravity, that attraction. Yeah. They talk about phases of business, first trying to be traction or action, taking action, and then turning it into traction. So putting a TR in the front, and then the next level is attraction, where you put an AT in front of the traction. Cool. Hey, man, genius. I'm going to say genius. I really appreciate it. You wouldn't be on here. You wouldn't be referred to my clients. I wouldn't be using you if I didn't think you're a genius. So obviously I'm a little bit biased, but I think that that shows you, for all the listeners or the viewers. So we're going to wrap up now. Any questions from anyone who's tuned in? And even if you're watching this as a replay, again, watch the questions, because I'll get Stu back and get him to kind of answer these questions. I love that it's not just high level, because I'm kind of high level, right? But you'll really kind of bring it down into, actionable stuff for everybody. Anything else that you wanted to kind of jam on before we start to wrap up and say thanks to everyone?
I want to say, from your perspective, that one, congratulations for being on the radio soon, because that's a big deal, mate, right? And thanks, I think your viewers should tune in to ZB when it's announced,
100.
Because I think it's a whole different forum. I think I can't wait to see what you bring to that space. And the other thing is, I can't wait to, thank you for getting me involved in the bootcamp that you've got running, because I'm doing that guest training session, I guess we'll call it that, and I really like the energy of this bootcamp type of format, right? I really like that small business owners who can't, not necessarily in the position to really take on one-on-one coaching, or to do to maybe not even invest the time that one-on-one coaching can take, who can rock in for a few weeks and just go bang session, execute, bang session, execute. You're my coach, and I know the power of that. So I can't wait to get into that room, that digital room, and watch some of your clients just nail it. right? So
Mate, I'm
whoever's watching,
really, really looking forward to
he's
it.
doing
Yeah.
he's doing a boot camp. He doesn't like talking himself up. Email him or something if you're interested in going, because you should go, because I'm going to be there, and apparently I'm a genius. But more so, this guy's a business strategist who will just pick up all of the pieces of your messed up life and put them in order, right?
Mate, you know, yeah,
That's
there's a
me.
lot
That's
of
my inner customer voice talking to you, right? All of the messed upness of being a business owner, when you've got someone who's holding you right to a cadence and accountable to a thing, is actually just a giant relief, right? It's a giant relief to go, hey, next week I've got to do this thing because he's going to kick my ass because he's my coach. He's going to blow the whistle. I'd better do this thing. And then when that thing's done, you go, that actually was great.
Thanks, Stu, mate. Where do I start with it? Yeah, look, it's really interesting that I'm going to be on, News Talk next Wednesday, 6:35 p.m. for anyone who kind of wants to hear it. Right, it's quite interesting when they see what I do on the internet through my marathon and persistence at kind of pumping out content. That they get this person who is actually quite different, I think, to the demographic or their typical kind of guest or speaker. It's a regular spot fortnightly as well, which is really, really awesome. What was I going to say there? Yeah, and then the boot camp. Look, I'm really looking forward to that. Thanks, Stu, for kind of mentioning that. So got experts like Stu in the boot camp, and it's just a chance for you to just find just like a fitness boot camp. Finally kind of get that kickstart that you need to kind of sort your business out. I know there's a lot of us out there with small businesses that we know it can be better. It's hang on to the extra 5 kgs, and we know that kind of if we did a bit of a boot camp, we can just shed those extra 5 kgs, and that's what it's designed to do. So. Drop us a message and get involved. Thank you very much for your time, Stu. Thanks to everyone that's tuned in.
Really appreciate it.
One of many, man. So I'm looking forward to getting you back and you sharing more marketing gold for small businesses very, very soon.
Awesome. Cheers.
Thanks, Stu. Thanks, guys.